Back. Let's stand for the opening karakia. Great, thank you. I've got apologies for lateness from Kelly and Tyler, and I don't know about Yanni, but he's in a possible early departure, so maybe just put Yanni in for lateness as well, and then the early.
Depart by 12:30 if we're not finished.
Yep, cool, great.
Mr. Chair, I'm the same as Pauline.
Sorry,
I need to depart by 12:30.
Okay, yep, great. So we'll just that's fine. We probably don't need to put that in there. So, Yanni's here now. Cool. Jake looks like he's happy to move it. Mel's happy to second it. All in favour? Against? That's carried. We'll just note the declarations of interest there. Item 12 and then item 17 in PX. I'll move the previous minutes. Mel's happy to second them. Anything on those? All in favour? Against? That's carried. There's no public forum or deputations or petitions, which is good. Then that gets us to Peter. Ryan, I did see Peter. Oh, great. Come on up. So item number 7, the key organisational performance results.
Right, good morning everyone. Belated Happy New Year to you. This is the mid-year report, so it's a little bit bigger than usual. It's what we call all-in, so there's a lot of detail there around levels of service. But it does show something that the exception angle doesn't take during the year, and that is how much we're doing really well, which is the vast majority of things we've been asked to do as an organisation. So just working through levels of service, good news. The focus on getting these right has started to pay off, where we've come up a few percent. We're now well into the green, and we'll keep that focus on for the rest of the year, and we'll try and drive that up a little bit further if we can. But that's historically a good result for this time of year, and a good indicator of where we'll probably finish at year end. Half year is usually a good forecast for what you'll look like at year end. I'll talk to the levels of service a bit more later on in the report, but in terms of the overall look, planning for capital also going well, looks set to succeed. There is time left for those targets to meet their goals. They're June and March of this year, so there's still some months to run on those. They're looking good. Value for money activity budgets, the exceptions there are largely around waters, so wastewater, flood protection, water supply. There are some explanations there on page 29, but fundamentally the team is looking to make savings to bring these back on track, but there are some issues that are being evened out by this coming draft annual plan. So that's the overview. There are some Q&As at the end of the document from questions that were asked last time about water loss and asset management maturity model. But that's really the corporate overview. I'm happy to go into any detail as needed.
Thank you, Peter. Victoria.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Peter. I'm interested in the graph on page 25 after 8.2. It concerns me about the steep rise in the capital program. And as I recall, we made a deliberate decision to reduce our capital program for the 24-25 year. So we've got a really sharp increase in the next couple of years. So I'm interested in knowing how we're going to do that, and not just the how here today, but I'd like to see the evidence and the plan on how we're going to get there, because it looks really risky to me. Can you comment on that? Thanks.
Absolutely. They're very similar questions that the teams are asking at the moment. So that's been actively discussed over the last 2 weeks or so. In fact, the various stakeholders, I guess, ourselves, PMO, are meeting with BEAD this afternoon. The objective here is to see what science underpins our belief in that climb, and whether that science is enough, or if it's not, what we need to do to make sure there is enough. So the question is being asked and the rigour is being put to it.
that come back to us at some stage so that we can actually see how that looks?
That's right. I mean, hopefully the answer is we can stack up numbers that give us evidence that we can do this.
Thank you. I'm interested in the evidence. Thanks, Peter.
Yeah, so just on that, Peter, because that was obviously that's a really good point back in my question as well. But just what is the mechanism to bring it back? Will you bring it back in one of your reports, or will it go through the capital program? Because I think that evidence is the key.
I'd really like to meet with BEAD and PMO and finance and have a path forward on this, and then figure out the best way to bring it back.
Okay, cool.
It needs to be something we all agree on, and that has a way forward in it,
Yeah, great.
a go forward.
So you'll just come back to us?
We will.
Yep.
It'll be through you, Mr. Chair. It'll be back through this committee.
Okay, great. Thank you. Any other questions? Yanni and then Aaron. Yep.
Just come back to kind of an ongoing request, but I've asked it for the accidents. I'm not sure I've had the information back, but this is just in regards to the serious death and injury crashes. Do we have a list of the hotspots? Like, how do we know that the interventions that we've got programmed are going to the areas that have the highest number of reported crashes in terms of serious death and injury? And I guess raise that because I'm just wondering if we get any geospatial analysis of where the problems are and then allocate budget towards fixing it.
Please.
Good morning, everyone. In answer to your question, Councillor, we do analyse all the crashes, and that's how we prioritise our road safety programmes in transport.
So can we get a list of what they are?
Yeah, we can distribute that,
Right.
and then we can show an alignment between those and our road safety programmes.
Yeah. Okay. And how often does the program change based on the previous year's results?
For the minor safety interventions programme and the minor safety programme, that's updated every year, and we revise that every year to account for the most up-to-date crash data.
Okay.
Thank you for that. Cheers.
Yeah, it's a follow-on from Victoria's with because Victoria raised the difference between the blue and the black lines, but the green lines where we're actually at are so drastically different. And when you look at the trend green line, that doesn't look like it will be anywhere near the other two. Or is there a jump that comes in there at some point?
I don't want to preempt what we bring back as science, because what's under this is actually complex. There's the contracts, there's bundled work, there's the possibility of large lump projects accelerating our spend. The second half of the year is also usually where spend is faster than the first half. Like road resurfacing is about to go into its big period. So what I'm trying to say is, I can't tell you exactly how we will get to that number, but what we want to test is, what do we know, what do we have science for, and what does the gap look like? And the answer to what's under that bonnet is probably pretty complicated, and it probably differs from portfolio to portfolio. Parks will be different to wastewater, for example. So I don't want to just give an off-the-hip blanket reply. I don't want to say it's all going to be fine. What I'm saying is we're trying to get the numbers that prove what we've got.
Yep. Okay, so Victoria?
Just a quick follow-up on that. So we're going to have this ahead of our decision-making on the annual plan. So if we need to make some adjustments to the capital program.
Yes, we will. Yep.
Yeah.
Document, but you will need to make any decision before June.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes, that's good.
Yep. Okay. No, that's good. So I guess you're picking up the sentiment, which is we're keen to understand what sits in behind
No,
it.
we're on the same page.
Yeah, yeah. So once you've had your meeting, if you could come back to us, that would be really useful. Thanks, Victoria. Okay. Did you have another Yanni? Yep.
I just had some questions about the water, and I've had some responses around. So page 30, the backflow register not functioning as it should as yet, checking with IT. And yeah, there's a number of things there that talk about being able to accurately report from the 31st of March. Are we still on track for that? And do we have any reason why it wasn't functioning as it should?
I know that Gavin's following this with great interest. He might be able to give you an answer.
We are on track. I can't give the details what the exact issues are. I can find out.
Okay. Is it an IT issue or is it something else?
It is partly an IT issue, but the fix that's been put in place will enhance how we can report on that
Right.
level of service.
I just know a number of us have raised concerns about IT. Do we need? Is there a way we can get greater governance oversight possibly around some of these IT issues that we're having as an organisation, so that we can get, or is this something that Audit and Risk is looking at?
I'm not sure I can answer that.
So in relation to the overall digital program that is currently reported to ELT on a quarterly basis, where there are specific issues such as the water, we do delve into those as a matter of urgency. And the overall IT risks are fully reviewed on a regular basis. So in terms of greater visibility for councillors, I will consult with the Chief Executive as to what the most appropriate way of achieving that would be.
Okay, thank you. And then just the final question on the water is on page 30. It says that we're working with Te Mata Arawai on determining a pathway to compliance, obviously for permanent chlorination. We've had some meetings with them here in the chamber. They seemed a lot more open with the change of government to looking at what we do around getting an exemption. Has there been any progress? Because obviously that's a huge cost that we're facing, and I know that they're charging us some mandatory levies now, but just wanted to check, I'm just concerned again that we're doing all this work around the permanent chlorination, failing our targets, but actually we might have a pathway to get an exemption that would reduce us spending all this money on something that the previous government wanted us to do.
I wonder if it's worth, when you answer that, Gavin, just talking briefly about and correct me if I'm wrong, but the sort of research project that was done around also minimising costs, or reducing the additional compliance costs, the partnership with them.
Yeah, so Te Mata Arawai will come and present to council within the next few months regarding the research project we're undertaking. That's looking into help us to comply, particularly around the treatment at the stations. In terms of if you're alluding to an exemption of chlorination in the distribution, we don't see that ever becoming an option for us.
This new government's all about cutting red tape and bureaucracy, and they've just done a regulatory standards review. We've had them at the table where I thought they were actually really open to working with us around getting an exemption, far so than we've ever had in the last 5 years or whatever it's been. But I'm just concerned that we don't seem to have engagement at a governance level over what is effectively hundreds of millions of dollars that the government's imposing on us around permanent chlorination.
My understanding was, and Gavin, correct me if I'm wrong, our first step at sort of anything was reducing the additional capital around the research project. So that has the potential to literally strip tens of millions of dollars out of our capital program.
It's also the contact time, we like the cost to get the contact time for permanent chlorination.
So that's what the research will
the
alleviate the contact time requirement.
Yeah.
But it's not going to remove the need to have chlorine in the distribution.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think it's probably fair to say we've jumped initially to the stuff that's likely to be achievable based on that discussion we had with Te Mata Arawai, but I think, everyone wants chlorine out too. So
yeah,
I'm happy to move this paper. Mel's happy to second it. All in favour? Against? That's carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. So we'll look forward to that delivery stuff in due course. Russell, would you want to come up for item 8, the financial performance report?
Thanks very much, Mr. Chair. Good morning and Happy New Year to all. Seems a bit odd saying that, doesn't it? It's February next week. This is the financial performance report for December, so it's a half-yearly report, and because it's a quarterly report as well, there's a bit more detail in it than would be in the traditional monthly report. So I'll pretty much take the paper as read, Mr. Chair, but I'll just go through a few salient points. So for the period ended December, the overall position was a small deficit of $2.3 million. This was significantly less than the budgeted deficit for the period to date by about almost $22 million, so 21.7. The forecast for the end of the year is $19.88 million. So that was a jump of about $7 million than what we reported through to November. The reasons for that are highlighted in the report. The biggest items have been, I guess, the subvention receipts that we will be receiving in March, a reduction in parks maintenance costs, an improvement in the interest costs, and the EcoCentral rebate. In addition to that, we've been discussing with the budget managers just to be quite clear when they're looking at the projections where that's going to be, rather than, I guess, just keep funds back for a rainy day type that we have had in the past, that they're actually say the position as we think best it's going to be, and so we're seeing I guess an uplift in that, which is driving that increase in the forecast. So just overall, the overall forecast of almost $20 million. So what's driving that? Building and planning consent volumes, they're up by about $3 million, just over. That's offset by a little bit by the additional costs in that space. Rec and sport, additional attendance and usage of the facilities has seen a rise in the revenues coming through. Rates over strike, we've mentioned that a couple of times, where the growth was higher than had anticipated. Subvention receipts, almost $3 million coming through, additional coming through later in March. And in the, I guess, the expenditure space, insurance costs, the reduction of almost $8 million. Now we've spoken about that before. Waste management, recycling and processing fees are lower, so it's about $4.2 million better than budget. Personnel costs we expect to be under budget by about $3 million at year end. And again, the parks, underspend in maintenance, and rates and capital owned properties will be less than we'd budgeted. Debt servicing, that's going to be down for a couple of reasons. One is the funds that we've got addition from the wastewater treatment plant, so we're borrowing less while those funds are used, and the hedging that we've put in place has offset a reduction, so that's good. All those are being offset by higher costs in Three Waters, maintenance costs and capitalisation time, and like I said, the building consent costs are higher than we'd budgeted. In the capital space, overall we're projecting, and more will be following in the report following me, the core program will be underspent by projecting by about $37.6 million. In contrast, the One New Zealand Stadium at Te Kaha, that's going to be an early year spend by $8.7 million, so a net of $29 million overall at this stage. And there will be requests, we understand, for most of that to be requested to be carried forward, but that will come through in the August report once the year has been completed. So that a couple of those other items that I mentioned in the 6 monthly report that are, so we've got the Treasury, so everything is in line with policy compliance, that's good. Borrowing, so you can see the overall borrowing position there, where it's going to be, so we're on track. Rates debt, we've seen a decrease of just over $1 million in the December quarter. So overall, when we look at the table on section 8.2, you'll see that we're pretty static where it's sitting. So, and taking into account the challenges that we have, the higher rates and the economic outlook that we're looking at. Overall, that's pretty stable. We see that as pretty positive for council. General debt, small change, a drop of about 400,000 generally, and there's a couple of larger invoices that are in dispute, so we're working through those. Insurance claims, just one for the quarter for a motor vehicle. And also attached to the report, there's a detail of ops and capital breakdown by activities. So, like I say, quite a bit more detail in this particular report than the other monthly reports. But happy to take any questions, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, great. Thank you for that, Russell. That was very good in terms of explaining it to everyone. Any questions? Yanni?
I just had two questions. One, the first one was we're getting the budgets for the Hagley Park car parking charges. So I understand it from a revenue point of view. We set a budget. This is how much we've got. But given that the objective for that wasn't around increasing revenue, it was actually around getting better turnover and better access for people to go and use the Botanic Gardens in Hagley Park. Are we able to get the data around the length of time that people are staying and the vacancy occupancy rates attached to the financials, so we can see?
For Russell.
Well, because of the financial information is the one that gives us the data around what people are paying.
So we can get specific information, but Russell's not going to be able to provide that now. So,
sure.
So we'll make a note of that.
Just wondering if there's a way that we can see the spend per visitor or something like that.
Yep. So what's your second question? No. So we've made a note. What's your second question?
The second question is, and I sent through an email, I see that we're underspent in parks maintenance, but I've had a lot of, I've seen some examples where people are concerned that some local parks maintenance isn't being done, and I know we've had, we always get this around this time of year, we get rain and then it gets a lot of growth.
Okay, so your question? The
question is, I'm surprised that we're underspent in that area, given the demands that we have in our community for the parks to be maintained. I get that there's some savings with, transferring in-house.
What is your actual question? So not statements.
So the question
question? Yeah.
Is there any concern that we're not meeting our levels of service because we're underspent in the parks maintenance? And what's the ability to spend more to get the parks maintenance done better?
So that's a Rupert.
I did ask for if we could be briefed on it.
So hang on, you've asked, you've had your statement, and now your question. So let's hear from one of the staff.
I will have to come back to you with some detailed answers, but the Parks Department look after more than just the grass and the maintenance. So we have a set budget for the community park spaces, and then so it's over a wide area of different services that we maintain. So I can come back to you with some more detail, but we are, it's over a wide area, not just the local neighbourhood parks that we maintain.
Sure. Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay.
Cool.
Thank you. Just on parks maintenance, it might be good to get an overview on service requests or complaints made over the last few months, part to Christchurch, and how they stack up to the.
This is the financial report where we monitor the budget.
Well, we're on the issue now, and if he's going to come back to us with information, it may as well be that kind of information.
Well, that would normally sit. I don't want to start the year on a bad note, but if we just think about the purposes of these reports, normally if there are issues with levels of service, you would raise them in Peter Ryan's at the table. Russell's here to present the budget and how we're tracking from there. So we'll take your point, and I'm sure the team can do it, but as we're going through the year, if we can just try and keep back to the purposes of these reports. So I'm happy to move this report.
Could I just add, just before Christmas, we did our, Rupert's team did his parks update. All that information was in that report, so it will also be repeated in the next report. And just to add to Councillor Johansson's question, the point Rupert made is the actual community parks part of the budget is right on budget. The overall parks budget is what is showing as an underspend at the moment. So the work that you're referring to is pretty much on budget.
So what's the area that's underspent in? Like, do we have a specific?
I think Rupert's going to come back. So I've moved it. Tim seconded it. All in favour? Against? That's carried. Thank you, Russell.
Thank you.
Nikki, do you want to come up for the capital report?
Kia ora koutou, katoa. Good morning. I'll take the report as read, Chair, but I'd just like to say a couple of key points, please. The PMO forecast for F25 remains at 510 million this month and is currently within 5% of the project manager's consolidated forecasts. A significant increase in expenditure is anticipated in the second half of the financial year. Achieving these forecasts will require strong program delivery. At present, there is considered low risk as year-to-date actuals continue to exceed monthly forecasts, and expenditure remains slightly ahead of the prior year as of December. On the watch list overview, over 23 projects currently on the watch list. 9 projects have green status, 11 projects are classified as amber, and 3 projects are red, highlighting risks. The key risks contributing to amber and red statuses include budget shortfalls, third-party program interdependencies, constrained timeframes, and program delays. The key watch list updates I'd like to call out is the Halswell Junction Road extension, extended delivery timeline due to complexity of Kiwi Rail signalling works. Parakiore Recreation and Sports Centre revised construction schedule provided by Crown Infrastructure Delivery and Transport Projects. Updates to align with the draft annual plan 25-26, including wheels to wings, Lincoln Road passenger transport improvements. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Interested to hear Halswell Junction Road extension mentioned there. Is there any discussions happening with Kiwi Rail to try and expedite that work to bring it to opening? The community are seeing all the infrastructure in place and thinking, how soon can we get this open?
Absolutely.
Excuse me. Happy New Year, everybody. It's nice to be. Hope you had a great summer. Councillor, yes. In a nutshell, yes. The delay of the block of line was worked through carefully between Kiwi Rail and ourselves to try and mitigate the impact on the whole network, not just the Kiwi Rail network. So we are all, as a team, a joint team, confident that this date will be one that is met. So that's where we're going. Great.
I've just got, not for you, Lynette, but Happy New Year as well. Nikki, in terms of page 181 around the activated sludge plant, so we've got the project's overall status at risk. I'm just keen to understand, so, and the financial status is red. I'm just keen to understand how we got to that point, given, like, I'm just thinking sort of through the, and correct me if I'm wrong, we settled our insurance.
Yep.
We put on budget. We baked into the budget over in the LTP the buffer for that, and then we've still got it at risk. So what's driving that?
The reason for that is in the project budget is only 115 at the moment. So the project manager has put it as a risk until the money's in the bank.
Right.
So it's in the draft annual plan. So the project manager is doing the right thing. He's identifying it at risk until we have that budget come through to the project.
Right. So it's a technicality.
Technicality.
Yeah, okay. Cool. Because I was going to say that's not. There's certainly no intention not to fund it. And then, so is that what's driving the overall status is at risk? Yeah. So we should have a look at that, because there's the technical side, but there's actually the public-facing side, which says, I personally, given all the hard work that went into the insurance and the sort of challenges in that community with this, we want to demonstrate that level of confidence in that. So maybe let's just pick that up going forward. Yanni.
It's just on that. It's good to get the information, but I've been trying to get a copy of the actual program, because when we made the announcement after the settlement, we had a very high level, very indicative kind of general program. But given that we're starting to get some more specifics, is it possible to get a community facing timeline of the different stages? I mean, almost like you've got the project phases, but having the dates attached to each of those would be quite useful, so the community can measure the progress that we're making. Is that something? I know, and I also know that you've given me, which was really grateful for, was some initial kind of high level concepts of what it might look like. But yeah, when's it would be good to know when the next kind of key milestone for sharing information with the community will be about what's happening there.
Is that something we could take away?
Yeah, we can take that away.
Yep.
Yes, no, definitely.
Cool. Okay, thanks. Did you have something else?
Yeah, I had and then
Pauline. Yep.
A kind of Kiwi Rail question. I mean, obviously, there's a number of these projects that are all being held up, having issues because of Kiwi Rail, particularly around the cycleways. I see that apparently we no longer need to do the Scrutton's Road crossing. So I'm just wondering if we're able to take the money. Oh, okay. Oh, do we have an update on what's happening with the discussions with Kiwi Rail? Because I just read through this report and see a number of concerning things in terms of increased cost and increased time.
Well, do you want to just clarify? Sorry, 2 points there, because I'm probably the same with you. I think I read over the weekend or last week about Scrutton's Road being fixed or something. So it would be good to clarify that first, and then do you want to talk through Yanni's other point?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Councillor, the Scrutton's Road, the Scrutton's Road is, we are working, as per my previous point to Councillor Peters, sorry, we are working really closely with Kiwi Rail and the Kiwi Rail team. They have had staff changes recently as well, and we're working with them. It isn't a quick process. As you can imagine, we are two big organisations that takes a wee while to get changes happening. On Scrutton's Road, we are working closely to try and do everything we can to avoid closing. At this stage, we do not have a new date for closing the cycleway. However, we still have to do work to mitigate the risk, because the risk profile from Kiwi Rail's perspective is still higher. But we are working closely with them. We are looking to see whether we can do some interim works that will assist things like vegetation clearance, improving sight lines, improving the lead up to the surfacing and the lead up to the crossing, that sort of thing. So we're working closely with them to find a solution, but we will still have to do something about a crossing there.
So, sorry, is something going to come back to us for a decision? I mean, I'm just mindful, like it's pretty hard for me to explain to my community that we put, 7.2 million on for Scrutton's Road and put nothing on for improving Bromley's Road in the draft annual plan. And I'm just wondering at what point can we remove the huge amount of money for Scrutton's Road that we've had to put on budget because of Kiwi Rail and put that into other projects that people are actually wanting done?
When we've cleared up exactly what we need to do there, and we're still working through that with Kiwi Rail.
So we don't have a time frame for that?
We don't have a time frame for that at the moment, but we are working through it on a daily and weekly basis.
Okay. And will a governance report come back?
Hang on. So, Sarah, I was just actually finding the article. So, do you want to just talk to what you've been talking about?
Yeah. So when
and who maybe?
Yeah. So I met with the project manager and with the government relations manager from Wellington. The project manager is based here locally. When the reporter asked me about the project, we only discussed the current work, which is the minor safety improvements. And I said that it was my impression that there was no plan to close it while that work was happening. We did not discuss what would happen if council decided to defund the project and not do the permanent upgrades. So the permanent upgrades will still be required. They don't have a solution for that yet, but that's being worked on at the moment. And in the meantime, they're doing the minor safety improvements. Does that make sense? So I don't know what Kiwi Rail would do if we decided not to do a permanent upgrade. That is not what that discussion with the reporter was about. It was only about current work.
I wonder if...
and I was clear with the report about that.
Yeah, we should probably just as an action, just in terms of informing the community, maybe take it up with the comms team around clarifying that story, because it reads as if...
Yeah.
Like
and
that reads like I
messaged
sorted the problem.
with the reporter last night. It was a different reporter that phoned me to the one that wrote the story.
Yeah, well...
and I did
Is that an
message them last
action?
night.
I think... Oh, Joss is down the back. Joss? Is that an action? It would be good to correct it, because we don't want the public to be,
So I was going to put a post up today as well to clarify the...
Well, it's probably just getting it back in the paper, because I read it. I actually didn't realise, you're right, it was in today's paper, and it looks like it's been sorted, but...
So I messaged you I messaged as soon as it came up in the afternoon to say, hey, actually,
Yeah. No, okay.
Yeah.
And through the chair, we're working to find pragmatic solutions for that with KiwiRail, and they are being, we're working hard
Yeah.
to
It
find
was a really
pragmatic solutions to
constructive-
that crossing.
Okay, so let's park that. Let's leave it with Joss to sort it out and correct it, and then so Yanni, you're all not Scruddins Road.
Yeah,
Let's move on.
not Scruns Road.
Yep.
So thank you. That's good to get that. It'll be good to get that clarified. Just the final thing which I did raise at the informal, but is it possible to get visibility of the organics processing plant project so that we can, just get some oversight about what's happening there as part of this?
Yes, we'll take that away and find
Yeah,
a briefing point for that.
Okay, so I've got Pauline, I've got you, Mark, and I've got everyone.
Yeah.
Pauline, and then
This
Andre,
is
then Tim, then
possibly
Mark.
for Lynette, I'm not sure, but we've got the Te Kaha Streets works on Barbados and Madras and Chewham there. What are the works down at Fitzgerald Chewham? Are they with Te Kaha Streets?
Yes. That is my understanding, is that they're with Te Kaha Streets. It's about the turnings, and where we're trying to, it's about the turning off. It's about improving the intersections.
Because Chewham Street will be one-wayed soon.
Yep.
Do you know when that's going to be?
No, I can get the project team to give you to do a written update on progress.
Because what you've got now is the businesses in there between Barbados and Fitzgerald have got no access, basically. They're people, it's difficult to get down Barbados now, and now you can't enter Chewham from Fitzgerald Ave.
Yes.
And the only way in really is from, I guess, the Madras Street coming down, and that's a nightmare between Madras and Barbados. So is there any way, A, we can get a time frame for that work finishing, and B, speed it up? Like when you go through that area on the weekend, there's nothing happening. Is there any opportunity for weekend and night work for extra teams? I mean, I know you've probably looked at it, but it seems it would be beneficial to those businesses if it was speeded up.
Through the chair, I'll that's good feedback, and we do need to do it. And I will ask the team to review the TM in the first instance and see whether there's a better, more logical way of running it, and we'll get an update on timings for
That would be helpful, thank you, because I mean it's not a residential area, so it should be.
And you'll circle back to us on that.
We will.
Yep, great, thank you.
Cool. Through the offices here.
Thanks, Pauline. Andre.
Thank you. I just requested yesterday for an update on the Wigram-Hayden intersection.
Yep. A very brief update I can give you this morning is that we are there is a consent. The consents have been lodged. We're waiting to finish to formalise the programming until that consent has been through the process. So there's a consent that impacts that site.
A community meeting was held at Ngāpūnawa in May, and the time frame given was that the job would be built and completed basically by now or by this summer. But of course, there's no consent 7 months later. Is this able to be communicated with the community?
So
just because there's the mailing list for Ngāpūnawa and surrounding area to let people know what's going on.
So again, I'll ask the project manager to do a sort of a flyer type update of where they're at and make sure it goes through the community board and out to those groups.
Cool, thank you.
Well, thanks, Andre. Tim, then Mark, then Phil, then Aaron, then Tyler.
Thank you. Just with regards to Pirakiori and the, it's hopefully the handover will be the 2nd September. That's a rephase, and that it will be up and running by the end of 2025. It's an incredibly complicated building with it, and I know we're designing the handover for our staff to upskill, but it is a public design for public access and a complicated build with regards to fluoride.
The question is,
if there is a delay, is it the Crown that is going to pick up the extra cost that the ratepayers will be picking up with that staffing? Because you cannot suddenly have staff on the day. Our staff have done a great job with phasing in and hiring and upskilling, but there comes a point where if there is a delay, we're going to have a whole lot of staff twiddling their thumbs.
Good question. That is, yeah.
Oh, yeah, thank you. I was getting to it, Sam. I was getting to it, mate.
Nigel? No, it actually was a good question.
Yeah, no. Hopefully I can give an equally as good answer.
Yeah. Only if it's good news.
Yeah, no, in terms of Tim, we're working really hard with CID to make sure that there is no delay, and if there is, then it's flagged early. The reporting that we've done this time on the 2nd of September, we're pretty confident that's the date they're going to hit. In terms of most of the complex stuff is out in terms of the water, so in terms of there's only finishing and minor details. So all the complex stuff that could potentially have a delay has been completed, so we're pretty confident that that September date's going to be hit. Therefore, we will be opening at the end of 2025. To answer your question, in terms of depends when we become aware of it, how we will work our way through, but it's pretty hard to have the conversation with CID about possibilities, but certainly we'll do everything we can to make sure we can have our staff work at other sites, do the training and not recruit them too early. So we're only about to go out for our team leaders in the next month or so, so we've still got a little bit of time to shift that risk.
Great, thank you. Mark.
Thank you. Lynette, you probably want to come back to the table on this one. Back to our favourite Q-Rail topic, and this time on the South Express. I'm just reading in there about Kiwi Rail and the intersection design. And are there hold-ups on that one, and are we progressing well with that?
Councillor Parker Street.
Yes.
That is probably, it's not progressing as fast as others, but we are looking at what we can do in the interim to keep moving. But it is still on the program, and we are still working on it.
Cool. And I guess while I got you there too, that Greater Waterloo Gilberthorpe's Parker, that's still in the mind to have a look at that down the track.
Yeah, and we're still looking at how do we manage that, and the Kiwi Rail crossing, and how do we manage it as a project.
Yep. Rather complex, I'm sure.
It is very.
Thank you.
On page 179, the South Brighton Estuary Edge South Shore thing, I see once again we're getting held up by ECAN. They're objecting about the what's required to protect the bund. Are they being realistic, or are they just trying to dream up problems to hold it up so we're not getting it done? Please.
I probably wouldn't want to comment on that one. Sorry.
Chicken. Okay, so we need to give, in my view, we need to give them a rev up, because I was told that this was going to be, the consent was going to be out before Christmas, and here we go again, and it just goes on and on because people down there want it done, and the longer we wait, the longer it'll take. So if we can give someone a bit of a jolly along, would be good.
So Lisa's got an update.
I'm told that we should get an update this week from ECAN.
So the update is we're getting an update.
That we get an update, but it is good to know because that'll be quite a significant next step for us. I don't know what the update contains, but we should be hearing back.
I'm sure that Brent and Andrew have heard the Mayor's request, and that will be actioned. Okay, Aaron.
The update could be giving a date for an announcement, which would be good. My question is from page 187, the Te Kaha surrounding streets. I think it was at the previous meeting of this. I asked if we could see how we believe people are going to access the stadium, mainly on the big events, not the smaller stuff that will be irrelevant. But given the questions raised today around Churm Street and others, it would be really good to see the modelling, because it's a number of years since we were shown the numbers of how people would travel there, but not the actual movements. And it has on when you look at the project description, the last line is support traffic management during larger events. So there must be a traffic management plan. It would be good to see that.
So let's get the team to.
Through the chair, there is a working group set up to look at this, and that's chaired by Christchurch NZ. Police are involved, fire and emergency involved. There's a whole load of stakeholders involved in that group, and we're just working through the details of it now. We have got all the modelling, so we can send you all the modelling, but we're working out the implications of that modelling in terms of how we manage the streets through temporary traffic management plans. So it is being worked on, and we'll keep you up to date with the outcomes.
I would have thought we'd looked at that modelling before we did any hard work on
so
streets.
We can't relitigate the decision that's been made. So if we want additional stuff, that's which I think is what you're asking, but we can't go back given we've already let contracts.
Well, we need to give the public confidence that what we've done is the right thing. So.
So probably back to the point I made earlier, though, the point of these is to monitor the progress of the capital program and the delivery of it. So we can't relitigate the decision. You'd have to do that by way of notice of motion or something. So,
well, I wouldn't need a notice of motion if we had confidence in what is going to be implemented as far as the major events go. The others, like, I'm sure.
So I think the team have said they'll get you some information.
Yep.
Cool. Okay, thank you. Tyler and then Yanni. Have I got you on? Have you got another question? You go, Tyler, and then I've just written you down again.
Sorry,
Yanni.
Lynette, you're playing musical chairs. It might be for the rest of the team too, but it's just checking in how we're going with the craft projects in Riccarton. It's not on the list in the capital.
The craft list,
Because those ones are actually getting delivered, so I'm pretty happy.
Yeah. So the craft report was last month, wasn't it?
Oh, it's going to be coming out next
month. So we've got a craft update next month, but the Riccarton projects, Dean's Ave, I believe, is coming to the board in early March for a decision. And I have got another one down here. Bear with me 1 second, Councillor. The work near Girls High is planned. Engagements completed by February, back to board in April is what the, but it's minor works, so it will be built soon afterwards.
Yeah,
so it's all progressing really well.
Awesome. Major for the community. Yeah,
cool.
Thanks.
Great, thanks, Tyler. I'll go Victoria and then we'll finish with Yanni. Yep.
Thank you, Sam. Lynette, stay there if you please. I'm talking about the Norwest Arc route, and I see that we've got an overall status at risk on that one, and it looks that it's the time status that's at risk there. My question is around the financial status, which is showing it green, but the narrative says that you're developing different delivery options to try and gain greater cost certainty. So the narrative's implying that you haven't got cost certainty, and it looks like the completion date is also going out, and usually it follows that when a project extends in a timeline, the cost of the project goes up as well. So you're not showing any of the financial status at risk. So the question is around how confident are you with the financial status of that project, given those factors that I've just mentioned?
Through the chair, I'll come back with a detailed response, but as an update in the public arena now, we have a large chunk of it under contract. So our confidence around delivering it is higher because we are now under contract, and the cost expectations around that, we've been working really closely with the contractor. So the section under contract is from from Brookside. I'm at the wrong end of this, from Brookside along Aorangi to Condell. So that is under contract, and that is actually underway with sewer works going on as well at the same time. So that's probably part of the confusion in the commentary, but I will get a detailed update back.
Given the history to some of these projects, I'm really keen to look for that cost certainty, please.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, we'll do.
Thank you. And finally, Yanni.
I just wanted to just clarify on the South Express route, the extra 8.8 million, has that already been put in as part of our feedback on the draft annual plan, or is it a new request? And I'm just concerned that that's a significant amount of money. And I guess I was just trying to understand what options did you look at to not spend the extra money, but to actually value engineer or redesign to fit within the existing budget versus seeking additional costs?
I think I'll have to, through the chair, request we come back in writing on that one.
Yep.
And the detail of that, that's quite a detailed question. I do know that the extra dollars have been baked into the annual plan, what is going to be proposed in the annual plan. So I'll come back and make sure I've joined up all that feedback.
Thank you. And then Aaron, last. Yep.
Yeah, just only because Dean's Ave was raised before, and it came up during the quiet media period that Dean's Ave might narrow to one lane and put in speed bumps. Does that go to the community board, or would that go to council?
Community board. It's not. My understanding is it's not proposed to narrow the whole lot to one lane. There's a section of it that was being proposed to narrow, but we've had some questions asked, so that feedback's coming back too.
So that delegation,
It's
even though it's
community
part
board.
of the major network,
It's going
is
to community board.
community board again. Yeah, I know, but we get no say at that point. We just cop the flak, but that's all right.
Okay, all right. So Phil's happy to move this. Victoria's happy. Pauline's happy to second it. All in favour? Against? That's carried. Thank you. Thanks both. Yeah. Okay. Let's get the Te Kaha team up. Or the One New Zealand Stadium at Te Kaha team up. Great.
Yes. Tēnā koutou katoa. I'm David Kennedy, Chief Executive of Te Kaha Project Delivery Limited. Two things for you today. We've got some quite recent drone footage which we'll put up on the screen so you can see what's happening on site. And then you've got my report, which is probably pretty easy for you to read, but I can answer questions to it or take you through some of the highlights. So if we can just push the go button, you'll be able to see what's happening on site, and Mark will talk to some of the features. So this is starting in the north-west corner.
Yes, so we've got two drone footages here. So in the first one, you'll see at the end there's still a gap in the steelwork. This was taken on Monday, the 20th of January. As we're coming around, this is down Madras Street, so the west frontage, you can see the steels going very well. They're working on the facades there. The first of the glazing has gone in at the main entrance. We're just passing the main entrance, so that'll be the players' entrance and entrance to the corporate. As we come around, still working on the facade. All the steelworks through here. You can see up on the roof, they're carrying on with the purlins, which are the members that will actually, the roofing will be fixed to. Coming now onto the southern end of the facility, Churm Street. You'll see there the actual facade with the cultural narrative. And as we're coming around, you'll see the steelwork there has actually now been touched up and painted, so it's had the final coat of white paint on there. Moving around now to the east side of the facility, so Barbados Street. Once again, you can look through there now.
Sorry, Mark. Look at the people up there. That just gives you, a sort of relevant of the size, isn't it? Or relative to the
It's
size.
huge when you actually see it there. And
yeah.
I wouldn't like to be up on the top of those buckets, but you can actually see there through into the seating. So all the seating is now in. There's still the seating down the bottom, just on the field of play, still to go. So coming along Barbados Street frontage, and you'll see on the ground there's the last of the column units there. There's two of them sitting there either side. In the second part of the footage, you'll see they've actually gone in. So those are the last four of the 40 radial truss columns that are going in. As we come up, you can just see the intricacy of the steel roof and why it's taken such a while to do, but it has gone very well, probably better than they hoped. We're now looking at the latter part of the footage, which is from last Friday. In here, you'll see the last four radial trusses have gone up. So they've gone up in modules where there's two trusses. Each of those modules is about 160 tonne each. And they've been able to do that by bringing in the largest mobile crane in New Zealand. That's that big one there, which is 1,200 tonne. So, yeah, really big, but that has enabled them to do that work and pick up some time. So, yeah, looking really good.
Thank you for that. That's really useful to get a bit of see how it's going. I think everyone in town's talking about it. Everyone you bump into can't stop talking about how significant it is and how the progress is going well. Do you want to add anything to your report?
Look, not really. I just draw your attention to the first paragraph under current updates, which are, I think highly relevant to councillors. There are no issues that council needs to be aware of on the project. Work is on program, on budget, and there are no quality issues. So, in alignment with our previous presentations to this committee, we are working hard to make sure that health and safety is adhered to, our sustainability metrics are being adhered to, and that we are maintaining a watching brief on the contractor to ensure that they are running along in accordance with their program. The contractor is, I wouldn't say relaxed about the program, but they are comfortable that they are on program. We've been through very critical phases of the project over the last 6 months with, as Mark was just talking about, the erection of all those bits of steel up high, and those have been completed, and bringing in that big 1,200 tonne crane has assisted in ensuring that that roof work was achieved on program. There's fit out works happening internally now, electrical works are being fixed. With respect to the community, we continue to have our quarterly meetings in the temporary cathedral. We sometimes get hardly any people, we sometimes get a few people, and they largely come along because they're interested in what's happening rather than concerned about what's happening. I think those are the highlights that I want to bring to the committee's attention. Thank you.
That's great. Just one thing, the Mayor and I were talking about the other day, it'd be good maybe at the end of February or something like that to get a book and a time for the councillors to go back through. The stadium would be quite keen to have a look.
We can do that. We are flooded with requests for people with all sorts of worthy causes to visit the site, but I'm sure we can make.
I think ours is relatively
I'm
worthy.
sure we can make allowance for the council.
Yeah. I was sort of asking, but not really asking.
No, we understand.
Okay, no, that's fine. So can we leave that with you to do?
Yeah,
okay,
Ken
so
can liaise with
Andre and then Aaron. Yep, thanks.
I was going to ask if we could watch that again, but a visit would be even better. So, visit sounds good.
Great. Aaron.
Yeah, just a question, and it may be too late because it's around capacity. With the seats at the southern end, because stages are going in at the northern end, are all the seats fixed at the southern end, or is there a chance they can be moved? Because when you have an embankment versus seating, you get twice as many people in that space. So we could potentially, without changing the design, only the seating design, have an extra 5,000 odd people. Is that possible, or has that already been considered?
Those seats are fixed.
Yeah. Right.
There'd be fire engineering.
Egress issues. Okay, cool. Just asking the question.
We've got Yanni and then Kelly, and then Phil said he'll move it, and I think Kelly will second it. So.
Just interested in when we're going to get an update on the different tenancies, and like you're progressing so far through the build and the fit out, but I'm also mindful that there's been requests for other activities to go in here, not related to the stadium, but not needing to have an event on to be useful. How is that process connected to the?
I understand your question, but it's actually one for Venues Otatahi, who are going to be managing the facilities rather than for us.
Is it what I'm concerned about though? Is there a critical milestone when it just becomes too hard to do any of that because you've passed a certain point in terms of fit out engineering services?
Well, we've got spaces which we are responsible for bringing services to, and responsible for putting a front on them. And Venues Otatahi are responsible for tenanting them and using them.
Right. So
and those are fixed. They're designed, they're built, sort of thing. Right.
So there's no ability to change. Yeah. And the second question from me was just around, appreciate that you've made reference to the contingency. I know you can't disclose the actual quantum, but can we get a percentage understanding of how far through we are in terms of that risk?
Is that something you could perhaps take away and have a think about? It's a really fine balance. I mean, I think as in the report indicated and the team talked about, the contractor's under pressure, which is good. You want them under pressure, but you want them working with you. So we probably can't, your call, not mine, but I would have thought we'd be...
I'm just trying to understand how much risk is remaining for us in terms of contingency versus the contractor as we've gotten...
Yeah,
I suppose that
in my mind...
The easiest way to answer that may be to say that the project team remain comfortable that we're going to come in within budget.
Yep. Cool. Great. Kelly, and then we're
Yeah, thanks, David. Actually, after consideration with my VO fellow director, I'll ask the question I was going to ask at board level. But can we get that footage, or is that footage available?
Yeah, it's available. We can circulate a link to it.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I think that's going out publicly tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah, it's going to be released through the media team.
Okay, so that's been moved and seconded. All in favour? Against? Hey, thank you very much for
Thank
that,
you.
and keep up with the work. That's great. Okay, Linda, do you want to come? I did see Linda. Oh, yep. Do you want to come up for item 11, civic financial services, please? And do you want to just have you got any brief sort of, well, not that have to be brief, but introductory remarks?
Morning. The only introductory remark I want to make is that Civic Financial Services is not a CCO, but the council is a shareholder. It should be a CCO. It's an omission in the legislation, and we have asked the government to look at that when they next amend the LGA.
Great, thank you. This seemed pretty. Oh, yeah, Melanie's happy to move it. Victoria looks like she's happy to second it. All in favour? Against? That's carried. Great, thank you. Do you want to do the Rod Donald Banks Provincial Trust appointment of trustee as well? Take the papers through, but if you want to add anything.
All I'd like to say is that in May last year, the board, the trust board came with a comprehensive paper to appoint or to propose appointing new trustees that the council reviewed, this committee reviewed. And this is simply a case of formalising the appointment of Kamala Hayman, who was appointed a special advisor to the trust pending the retirement of one of the other longer serving directors, which has happened now.
Great. Any questions on this? Melanie's happy to move it. Yanni, you happy to second it? All in favour? Against? That's carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll now go into public excluded. So I'm happy to move that. Mel, you're happy to second it? All in favour? Against? That's carried.